Before we get started, we wanted to thank Liberty Mutual Surety for sponsoring this episode of Let's Get Surety. Liberty Mutual Surety provides contract and commercial bonds for all size companies and contractors around the world. Liberty Mutual is here for you today, tomorrow, together. For more information on Liberty Mutual's breadth of surety products and solutions, visit www.libertymutualsurety.com. Now on to our show.
You're listening to Let's Get Surety. Let me hear your bonding talk with Kat Shamapande.
Hey everyone, it's Kat Shamapande. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Let's Get Surety. Today I have with me Mark McCallum, CEO of NASBP. Hey Mark.
Kat, great to be back.
It's always good to have you on with me. And I'm excited about our topic today. We're going to be talking about how we can build a more diverse and inclusive surety and insurance industry. So to do that, we have with us Carmen Duarte. She's VP of Diversity, Inclusion, and Social Impact at Intact Insurance Specialty Solutions. Thanks for being on with us today, Carmen.
Oh, it's great to be here, Kat. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mark.
So before we dive in and talk more about this topic, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and about Intact Insurance?
Oh, sure. Happy to. So I've had the pleasure of being with Intact in this capacity, overseeing our diversity, equity, inclusion, and social impact opportunities for the last couple of years. But prior to that, I was the organization's chief marketing officer. And my background also includes a period of time in HR. And I actually began my career in the industry as an underwriter. Intact is an organization that can trace its legacy back hundreds of years. In the U.S., we were most recently One Beacon Insurance, which I suspect many of your listeners are familiar with and probably work with. And we were acquired by the Toronto-based Intact Financial Corporation in 2017. And at that time, it was an opportunity for them to get into the specialty lines domain. We have a portfolio of a number of different verticals, with surety being one of our most significant books of business. And that opportunity has transitioned into being a global business for Intact at this time. So we have a presence, specialty presence in the US, in Canada, and now through the recent acquisition of RSA in the UK and internationally speaking. So an exciting time for us.
It sounds like it. And it's interesting to see the background that you came from with all of your diverse career experience to get you where you are today.
Yes, I'm a big fan of having that squiggly career path, as they say, and a step sideways can often be the best step.
That's such a great point. Yeah. And I mean, I know in our industry, and it's not just our industry, but every industry is kind of looking at this gap in talent as we move forward and we're looking to secure new talent. Is that something you're seeing in your role? And what are you doing to help address that issue?
Sure. It's a great observation and frankly, something that I think keeps a lot of people up at night. You've probably seen the data that says that over the next few years, 400,000 baby boomers are going to retire from our industry.
That's a little scary.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And at the same time, that one of the biggest barriers for entry to our industry is just lack of awareness. I have daughters, and when they were graduating from school, the first thing they wanted to do was work for a cool startup or maybe go into advertising. And when I mentioned, what about insurance? Like, you got to be kidding.
That wasn't a hot sell with your daughters?
No. And all kidding aside, I suspect that you've also all been in meetings where someone says, how did you get into this industry? And many people sort of fell into it. So one of the things that we need to very proactively do, and certainly Intact is pursuing this path, is to more proactively establish relationships with colleges and universities that have risk management or actuarial programs, as well as with schools that have diverse student populations, so that we can create more interest and intrigue, not only in ourselves, but also in the industry overall, and to bring back those summer internship opportunities and trainee programs, again, to get young people excited about the careers that we offer.
So, Carmen, how do you pursue that? I mean, that's a tall order. First, I guess you have to identify those programs. You said the risk programs, but then you have to connect. So, how do you do that?
Sure, great question, and you're right. It is a tall order because it's not something that you can tackle overnight. Probably one of the most important relationships to develop is with the talent acquisition team in one's organization, because they're the ones that are out there building pipelines and making sure that there are candidates that can seek these various roles. And I'm fortunate in that the Intact talent acquisition team is very committed to ensuring that we have a diverse pipeline, but also to building out summer internship opportunities, which we've grown over the last couple of years. And then as well, whether it's roles like mine or business leader roles, making sure that you're proactive with industry associations like yours, and developing support and presence so that you're known as an organization that's interested in supporting education and making sure that we're giving back through scholarships and other vehicles that, again, bring young people greater awareness and opportunity to enter our industry.
That's terrific. I mean, you mentioned some of the changes in recent years that have led us to where we are. Are there any other changes that are allowing or creating a space where we're more willing to grow the pools we're pulling from?
Well, specifically, I think, as we all know, the murder of George Floyd was a watershed moment, both from, I think, a social conscience perspective, as well as just realizing that we were probably not doing all that we could to attract candidates from diverse backgrounds. And so there's a number of broad industry studies, one that's sponsored by the APCIA, American Property Casualty Insurance Association, as well as another that's sponsored by Marsh. And in both instances, they're looking to see, what is happening across organizations to build out their diversity programs and expectations. And when you look at 2020 versus 2022, it's obviously that everything has spiked. Most companies now have some sort of DEI element embedded to their business practices. Most have someone either in a full-time or part-time capacity leading DEI strategy and expectations. Most organizations are actively seeking to diversify their pipelines, offering training, doing all the things that are necessary to have a framework that's going to really affect change. So I would say it all really circles back to that unfortunate event.
Well, Carmen, also you touched earlier that demographically we're changing as a society, as a country. We have the baby boomers getting older, but aren't we also a more diverse society out there? And then also, doesn't that mean that the businesses that Surety caters to are also have more diverse ownerships in many instances? So do you feel those are compelling reasons, also arguing for good diversity, equity, and inclusion programs?
That is an absolute wonderful endorsement of the practical reality we live in, Mark. So thank you for bringing that up. And the U.S., demographically speaking, is increasingly diverse from a race, culture, ethnicity, gender expression, and identity. All of those elements when you think about the many forms of diversity. And in order to ensure that our brokers and our customers are having an authentic experience, it's incumbent on all of us to make sure that we have relatable individuals in those frontline roles, whether it's as underwriters, as claims reps, whatever the discipline might be. Having that authenticity be the brand that you're working with is incumbent on all of us. And for us at Intact, that's actually part of our DEI vision, is making sure that our employee population reflects the communities that we serve.
It seems like that would have a huge impact on the industry. Are you starting to see some of the impact from that?
Yes, I think when you look at the overall demographics of our peer organizations, you do see that to a significant effect, people are seeing an uptick in more diverse employee populations. There was a congressional study that was published last fall that you may have seen out of the House Finance Committee, and it focused on the largest organizations, those that write over $7 billion in premiums in the U.S., but it did show what those demographics look like. And again, on average, we are seeing increased diversity in the employee communities.
Does that mean then that your reach out, you had mentioned colleges and universities, but are there also other opportunities out there in terms of finding talent? Sometimes maybe they're already in an industry and out of college. And what do you do in that case?
So it's a mixed bag opportunity. I think that there's first, we can influence students even when they're younger, right? So We've been talking a lot about maybe we should really be going to high school career fairs before they go to right before they go to college and already start thinking about those startups and ad agencies as places to work. So that's one part of it. And then the second part of it, Mark, is, as you said, is being broader in our thinking. There are other industries that require similar skills, whether it's risk management or financial analysis. Financial services as a sector is quite broad, and there's certainly transferable skills. And oftentimes, too, in organizations like ours, which are specialty, you can find great skills among practitioners, right? Someone perhaps that might have been in the technology or life science sector, well, maybe that's someone who could transfer over and learn the underwriting side of the house.
Right. I love that idea of their transferable skills may come from many different directions and be directly applicable to what you do as a surety professional.
Exactly. And it's an opportunity to get creative. And one of the things that I always like to say is when you think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, to forget about that notion of making sure you're finding candidates who are cultural fits, right? And who have the exact same backgrounds. Think about cultural adds and bringing people in that can bring some diversity, not just demographically, but from their experience or the way that they think or approach work. I mean, that's really what creates the dynamic environment on your teams and then hopefully leads to greater outcomes.
That's terrific because, bringing in all those different opinions, different backgrounds, different personalities, that builds a better, stronger business because you've got all that background. Everyone's not coming from the same point of view.
Exactly. And there's great data. I think every consultant in the U.S. probably published a white paper in the last couple of years that talked about the better financial results that are documented when you have a more diverse team. So, that's a great point, Kat.
So, I've read that in the insurance industry in particular, there's a great gap. And there's a lot of opportunities. Carmen, you characterize your career and all the opportunities you've been able to take advantage of. Maybe tell us a little bit more about where you see the opportunities are for young people who are thinking about a surety career that may not have considered it, and what types of opportunities they might have in front of them if they do consider it.
So I think one of the most exciting things about a business like Surety is the breadth of possibility. There's so many different sectors that need surety bonds. And so it's not that you would be coming in and only learning about one particular type of business from a risk management perspective. So I think that breadth of possibility is always exciting when you're 22 or 23 or 28 and don't necessarily know what your career preference or most favorite idea in the world might be. You're still learning.
Right.
And then also, in my view, it's a bit around the clarity that it's such a significant foundational element to our economy and our financial stability is having surety as a product. and knowing that you're in that bedrock industry, and frankly, always likely to have a possibility, versus think of all the tech companies that are suddenly having these huge downturns, and consequently people are losing their jobs. Maybe that romantic idea of being part of a tech startup isn't so great after all.
Right. But I love that point that you get to potentially work with all these different industries. And if you're interested in tech, you can be in surety and work with tech. So there are bonding opportunities there as well. So depending on your appetite and your curiosity, you have those opportunities, which I think makes surety very exciting for a lot of people.
Yes, that's right.
I wanted to go back, and I'm still, I think, at NASBP and otherwise, we always struggle. Well, how do we do that reach out? How do we get known? We're too much of a well-kept secret, and we really don't want to be.
Yeah.
And we talked kind of in general, like reaching out, having internship programs. But are there things that we can do that really reach down into curriculum, perhaps, for a university or a high school? Do you see the industry doing that, or has Intact done that?
Well, one of the things that I think is available to any of us, and just a matter of making it come forward, is hooking up with local high schools and going to their career days. So I think that's a possibility that's there. Maybe you can have a fun challenge with your members and say, I don't know, maybe you have a great raffle prize available at the next conference, and anybody that's gone out to a local high school to do a career day can enter the raffle, right? We're all competitive at heart, so I think you can probably find some fun ways to do that.
Right.
I think the other thing too, and something that I've been enjoying as a personal experience over the last couple of years, is working across the industry. And associations offer that unique opportunity where member organizations sit at the table and think about what can we do as an industry, and use the NASBP umbrella as the way to move forward and to offer, whether it's webinars or summer internships, or potentially, again, just going into career fairs at high schools or even colleges to talk about the industry, and sit at a table with your local NASBP colleague from another organization. Because it's sometimes easier when you have 40 different companies that can work on something together versus just being your own organization, taking steps forward, but obviously with a little bit less influence and impact.
That's such a great point. So, and working together, do you see any initiatives where different organizations are working together in the surety or insurance space?
I can give a plug to the Insurance Industry Charitable Foundation, IICF, which a couple of years ago set up a DEI committee, and a few of us have been working on talent and how to identify that sort of executive or leadership levels from underrepresented communities, because there's a lot of people in sort of the junior and mid levels, but not as many in senior levels. So we have been piloting a cross-industry mentorship program where individuals are paired up with an executive from an underrepresented community, primarily people of color, and some intersectionality with gender, and then just a couple of female leaders, white females, from another company. And so the idea being that you may not have someone that looks like you in your own organization, but maybe there's someone who would be a great mentor in another company, and having it be under the umbrella of IICF. There's obviously that non-compete, non-recruit expectation. And so far, the pilot's gone really well. So that's one quick example, as I said, a brief ad for another association. But those things aren't unique to IICF. It's certainly ideas and collaboration that can be brought forward, within the surety space. I think you guys could potentially have a role in structuring.
Right. And I love the idea of the mentoring, the mentorship,
Yeah.
which could be pursued formally or informally, I imagine, to make sure that somebody gets a great flavor for what Surety can offer and gets them guided in the right direction.
You often hear, people who've risen up in their careers, how important those mentors were in their early career development. So it seems like a really exciting and great place to start.
Yeah, and it's also, I mentioned that Marsh study before, it's also one of the other impediments for mobility by underrepresented insurance professionals. And I'm using that term broadly to mean people that work in surety and other areas, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
that they don't have the same access to networks and to mentors. And so if associations can step in and take a lead in helping that out, I think it's a great way to help push forward the goals that we all have around creating more diverse workplaces and cultures.
Right. I appreciate that. So you mentioned that as getting over one impediment. Are there other impediments that you think exist that we can overcome to make sure that we're doing better on the diversity front?
Well, the biggest one is that lack of awareness of the industry. So I think I'm glad that you asked that question because it's certainly right. It's certainly one that we can collectively address. And I would say otherwise it's probably a mix of lack of mentoring, lack of access to networks, perhaps maybe lack of growth opportunities. I believe that the study also talked about maybe educational preparation or ongoing training. And that may stem from the fact that they didn't know that they might want a career in insurance. Maybe they didn't take any general courses that might have supported them, or maybe when they're in their companies, they may not have access to the proper kind of development opportunities. So,
right. Currently, with surety companies, do you see more of an upswing in internal training programs that you're aware of, and what does Intact do in that regard?
So I think there's been a return to understanding the benefits of training programs. There was a definite lengthy period of time where people stopped doing them because they felt that they were investing in their trainees and then they leave to go work for their competitors after you spent the money and the time to source the candidate and then get them going. But I think that pendulum has swung back. And so we are starting to see more organizations host training programs. And then also simply to invest more in talent development once they're in the organization. We're in mode right now where we are launching a couple of supervisory and leadership pilot training programs for new and emerging leaders in our company because we appreciate that that's been a bit of a gap where you earn the opportunity to be a team leader, but you sort of have to figure out how to do it on your own. So this is a nice, well-rounded curriculum that offers, again, individuals, will be in a pilot this year, some educational and role-playing support so that they can augment their day-to-day with some technical training.
Great.
That's awesome to hear that the focus on training and education is coming back.
Yes. Well, I mean, when you think about it, all those things, not only do they help develop individuals within your company, but it also makes your organization one that's more interesting to job seekers. And then hopefully it also builds loyalty amongst those who are there because they feel that the organization is interested in them and their personal and professional development.
Absolutely.
And then in trainings, you get an opportunity to interface with people you might not interface with on a day-to-day basis, too. So you get a broader exposure to other people within your company, or if it's an external training outside of your company.
Exactly. And it's all about networking, right? So the more people you know, whether it's in or out of house, that's a great thing.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, if you had one closing thought that you wanted to share about continuing to build a more diverse and inclusive industry, what would that thought be? What would you like someone to take away if they take away one thing?
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. That's a great question. I love that as a wrap up. I would say remember that it's everyone's responsibility and opportunity. Engage, engage, engage. Be an ally to individuals who fall outside of your usual network. Remember to support or even join your internal employee resource groups or business resource groups, depending on what your company calls them. Those are great vehicles to not only support individuals who may not necessarily be similar to yourself, but also to help provide management and executive support to emerging talent and have them appreciate that what they're doing really matters to the growth of the business. And figure out a way to help the NASBP so that your efforts as an association, can be among those that the industry really admires and becomes a vehicle for change.
Great. Thank you for those thoughts.
Yeah, that's terrific. Thanks for being on with us today, Carmen, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again sometime soon. It's been so nice having you.
You've been listening to Let's Get Surety, brought to you by the National Association of Surety Bond Producers. For more information about the NASBP and its members, visit nasbp.org.
Before we go, we just wanted to thank Liberty Mutual Surety again for their generous support in supporting this episode of Let's Get Surety. Liberty Mutual Surety provides contract and commercial bonds for all size companies and contractors around the world. Liberty Mutual is here for you today, tomorrow, together. For more information on Liberty Mutual's breadth of surety products and solutions, visit www.libertymutualsurety.com.